Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Welcome back. This is part 2 of Michael Law's episode, learning about his journey as an entrepreneur and how he has come to realize what it takes to be successful. Here we go. Let's recap that again. The question was, how can you guys be so confident in what you're doing? How is it that almost everything you do seems to touch to gold, turns to gold? And why were you so much more successful in this network marketing than I was, even though I was right there with you all along the way? It just so happens that I was buying, watches and cars and blah, blah, blah. So that really is the question. Now, this is the answer. I want to make sure that everybody's following along.
Yep. And along with that, I'm going to say add into that all the hate you're going to get while doing it. Oh, Blake and Michael think they're better than everybody else. They could just start another business, and that business is going to fail. Watch them fail. So all the hate that comes with it too is like, how do you even get past all of that, And that's almost more important to get past than just even the consistency. And so I treat this book like a Rubik's Cube. It's a lesson I learned. And with a Rubik's Cube, you and I get the concept, which is get all faces the same color. Now, if you don't understand the formula, how to turn the dials on the Rubik's Cube, you could spend your whole life and never solve it. You could get very, very close and have all colors the same besides one little dot. And if you turn the dial the wrong way, you just put yourself in a rut and you're starting all back over. But if I showed you a 30-second clip that teaches you the formula on how to turn a Rubik's Cube, in about 5 to 10 minutes, you'll solve that Rubik's Cube. And so I started treating this book like that. And everyone kept using it. And I was like, okay, even if you use it, you kind of got, some people got some results, but they were treating it like a planner. And that got under Blake and I's skin because we were like, man, this isn't just a planner. This is a process and a system and structure. This is a tool. This is a success tool. How do we get people to understand how to use this tool, the formula, and not just treat it like a planner? And so we created a 12-week step-by-step course that explains every single piece of this book on how to do it with intention and integrity and maximize the results from it. Then we started selling that, and that started going well. And as that started going well, we started to transition because I sent this book out to New York. I was like, we need to get this book out to more people. So I shipped this book to New York, to Barnes & Noble. And I want to get it on the business shelf. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is great, but we're going to put it on the gift rack. I'm like, no, it's a business book. We need to put it on the business shelf. They're like, yeah, but it's spiral bound. So anything that has spirals, we put it on the gift rack. I'm like, okay, pause. So I go and I find a manufacturer that can make it hardcover. And in the meantime, we're a luxury brand. At least we treat ourselves as a luxury brand and higher end and success and everything like that. So I was like, man, I found a company that also wraps the cover in leather and then presses your logo in the front. So I was like, you know what? Let's make this book leather bound. And you'll notice the company was called FGM, First Generation Millionaires. So I rebrand it and I shipped this book, the hardcover book. When we get it, I ship these out and we order 500 of these books, by the way. And then I ship it out to Barnes & Noble again. And they say, man, we love it. It's great. And they don't take you very serious as a new author, by the way. And so they go, it's great, but when we put it on the shelf, people won't know what it is because it has no title on the spine. And I'm like, oh, dang. So that happens. And so that happens. And I was like, all right, cool. We got 500 of these. So we got our Shopify store. We're selling these via e-commerce. We're selling these through word of mouth. And I go work on, I go to work on the revision. But while we're working on a revision, we're also working on a rebrand because the company, even though it's called First Generation Millionaires, people felt like that was a statement. They felt like it was like being egotistical, kind of like, oh, you're wearing that shirt, you're calling yourself a First Generation Millionaire. And I was like, well, guys, it's about the mindset, but I wanted to be inclusive with everybody. So I was like, and the second brand was First Generation Billionaires, LLC. And so when I was in the middle of rebranding it, to put the title on the spine of the book, I meshed the logos together and we called the company Millionaires to Billionaires LLC. And so I get this book, I rebrand it, and at the same time, one of the processes when you open up the book is, did you write down your goals? And so we were like, man, well, if people are writing down their goals, they're just going to go buy notebooks. Let's actually go create them a goal book so they can write all their goals inside of the goal book. So we go and we create a goal book with just lines. It's just lined paper, and we attach it as a bundle pack. And while we are learning that, we're also helping people. We started learning our financial lesson. And so we're like, man, we can't teach people advanced finances. So let's teach them the basics. So we came out with a financial book too. And the financial book only focuses on tracking your wants and your needs spending patterns. That's it. Nothing else. It's just helping you become aware of your spending habits. That's it. And so we bundle that together. And I send it off to New York. I send this one, the FGM success book, off to New York again. And they go, oh man, that's great and all, but we only work with 2 distribution companies and they don't do leather. So it's just gonna have to be hardcover and you're gonna have to get rid of the leather. And I'm like, you know what? We're not going into Barnes & Noble. Forget Barnes & Noble. We're just gonna go direct to consumer forever. And so we ended up not going direct to consumer. When we released these 3 books and the course that came with it, which became the bundle pack, the next version, people started asking us, hey, can you, I did the course, I answered the question, can you review my answers? Can you review my answers? Can you review my answers? So we're like, you know what? So many people are asking us to review their answers. I'm just going to start a group coaching program and meet with them once a week. And so we started doing a group coaching program. And through that group coaching program, people were starting businesses. People had businesses. And they're asking, hey, this is great for me, but how do I use it now to build my company? And so we started consulting companies, and we started consulting them through all of our lessons. So I share that because, one, it's been a 5-year journey from December 2018 to today. Now we have a complete rebrand where we meshed all 3 of that bundle pack into the new book, and the new rebrand is called Ideal. And the reason why it's called Ideal is because when we wanted to consult companies, maybe coach churches, nonprofits, schools, kids, they didn't resonate with millionaires and billionaires. So we came out with Ideal to help people create their ideal life. From there, I asked myself, if this book works for me, for Blake and I, and it works for everyone else that we're giving it to, is this book true for everyone else who has already created success in their life? So Blake and I were like, well, how do we find that out? It was like, well, we got to go ask them. It's like, how are we going to ask millionaires and billionaires, about their success? And so we started our show, the Millionaires to Billionaires Talk Show. And I said, well, if this book works, I'm going to go use it to build relationships with millionaires and billionaires and get them on our show. And I used it as a tool to book all of the millionaires and billionaires that we've had on our show. And I gave them the book, and we had them look through the book. And we said, is there anything you would change about this book? And not a single person ever gave us any critiquing on the book, other than maybe the weight and the size and everything like that. But as far as the process, system, and structure, no one ever critiqued the process of the book. They said, that's what I did. That's what I do. Maybe I just do it in my own way or in my own book or in my own app. But like what that book is what we did to create success. And that's when I found out the answer, which leads me to my belief. Everything that you want in life and in business is on the other side of developing new successful habits. And from that point, that's when I started doing things the right way. I started doing things that if I was going to do things, I was going to do it the right way only. And I started working on my habits. I started slowing down, and didn't really care about blowing up a company very, very fast. I cared about instilling the habits in me, so that way I can go out there and build a successful company that's long term. That's the story behind your question. As far as like
Wow,
when.
that's way cool. Zig Ziglar, is quoted as saying, and it may be his son Tom actually, because I was at a place where Tom presented, and the statement was made: the only way to get rid of bad habits is to replace them with new good habits, right? And so people can be stuck in a rut and doing whatever it is they're doing, and come across your program, and which helps people to nurture good habits, maybe even create new habits that will by default displace all the junk and the bad habits that they have to go to their ideal life. It's a way cool story how that's come so far into doing that. I'm really curious. You said a couple of times people keep asking us this, they keep asking us that. Were people asking them, or were you going back and saying, "How can we improve? How can we improve?" Were you? Because it seems like to me you're the kind of person that would be constantly finding out from your customers how to do better. And it would, in that kind of interview or in that backdrop, is when they would ask, "Hey, will you review what I've done?" What really was the process there?
So it wasn't that way at first, actually, because I had no business experience. I didn't know to go get all the feedback from your customers at first. So now I know, like, I drop something, I'm like, hey, give me feedback ASAP. As soon as you find something that you think is going to be better, like, let me know as a customer. But I didn't know it actually landed through that process I shared, because people did keep asking over and over, and I'm like, that was the thing that Blake and I kind of dealt with a lot, was just a lot of people asking the same questions, but we didn't want to answer 1,000 people in 1,000 different ways. We're like, how do we just streamline this and make it simple? And it ended up landing us in the personal development space, being personal and professional development space and coaching and consulting.
Interesting. So do you want to say anything of because there is an app, right? You have put
Yes.
an app out there. Besides these books are phenomenal because there is something about writing, and you can talk to and consult all the personal development people, whether you want to go back to Rob Proctor and his mentor. I mean, I know they're dead, but if you can find it in their writings and their work, that writing stuff using a pen and paper or pencil and paper, there's something there psychologically. Yet you
Yes.
came out with an app. Why did you do that?
Yeah, definitely the vision keeps crystallizing, and it will. As you're an entrepreneur, your vision will always continue to crystallize, and that's part of getting feedback. Now, through getting feedback, I had a business strategic partner say, "Hey, Mike, I preach the same thing. I will always use pen to paper because of the science behind using pen to paper. However, this person said, Mike, I love your book, but man, I'm just not going to buy it because I work with my device, my phone, my iPad. That's all I carry with me on business trips. Like, it has to be on there. But it's great." He goes, "But my wife would never download your app if you had one." I didn't have one at the point. If you had one, because she believes in pen to paper and she loves to write everything down. And then that made me realize the whole purpose we were building the app in the first place, the Ideal app, was to help people track their habits. So the whole purpose was to create a 90-day habit tracking app. Then it evolved into, we turned the book and we made it digital. Then it turned into, now we're going to put success courses with people that we've come across in life, whether they're millionaires or billionaires, and we're going to create Ideal University. And so we're going to have it turned into a big platform. It's growing into a bigger platform and a bigger vision through that. But then you have a hybrid like myself, where I will always put pen to paper, but I will absolutely track the 90-day challenge on the app. So listening to customers again. Also, some customers are like, man, I wish when I pack, for trips and traveling, this book just takes up a lot of space in my bag. I'm like, well, that's what your app is for. For the days when you're traveling, use your app. When you're back home, use your book. So it's adapting and it's crystallized. And now we meet, both versions of people, or all three versions. The people that are more tech savvy and want to use the app, the people that are more old school and want to use the pen to paper, and a hybrid that wants to mix both of them.
So everyone, the Ideal app available on the App Store, and there is like a 7-day trial. However, there's then a subscription to it. I personally, I would recommend that you go all the way in. I have the app, and I did the lifetime membership. I just went for it. I say, okay, I'm going to really put this to the test. I'm going to tell you right now, the app is not very kind. And what I mean by that, I would like to say I did this on purpose, but here it is on my phone. It says, okay, what happened? I completed yesterday. And if I click that, I said, yeah, I got all my tasks done. I did my new habit stuff, or I failed. And if I put I failed, it goes to the next things. Now, don't cheat yourself. To confirm that you want to start over, type start over below. So you got to go in this blank, and it has to be all capitalized. If it's lowercase, it doesn't work. And there's a psychology there. I mean, you got to put on caps lock, your caps lock, and put start over, or the app won't let you go to the next day. It's way cool. I mean, some of the stuff that you guys have built into this is very helpful. I mean, this whole podcast, people that have listened to this podcast more than once know at the end of it, we say, mastering your millions is all about your mind and your team. Make sure they're the best. And this is one tool that we have found, and we're sharing with everyone that are listeners in the world, and whoever comes across. There's one way to really develop your mind, and I think one of the best ways to do that is through this app, through this program. That's why I've been so excited to have Michael on after talking to Blake and first finding out about this. Very cool. And everyone, we will put contact information in the show notes. I made the magic word YouTube link and just stick it in there. I've done it since the first time you talked about it. I've listened to it a couple of times. So, it's been late at night. I put on my headphones so I don't wake the missus, or early in the morning, same thing, and listen to it. It's very, very good. Again, it's way cool. So, Michael, you have had this long journey of being an entrepreneur, and it seems like to me it can be boiled down into a couple of things. And you can correct me in the event I'm wrong. One is you never stop, right? You have failed multiple times. You have gone from good to practically nothing. You started from nothing, so that never scares you, right? You crash and burn, and you have nothing, and have to close this and close that business, close that business. You don't have the suits business anymore. You don't have the supplement business anymore. And yet you've kept going and going and going, and constantly finding ways to get better. And as you go along, your successes, it seems like, are also increasing, right?
Right.
Is that a good summation, or what would you say? Anything different?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That you're spot on. Now, I want to, if I could take a moment, I want to explain. I think this is going to be actually phenomenal for anybody listening. It doesn't matter at what level of success you are in. I want to explain the definition of success from my perspective. And yes, consistency has a lot to do with it. And a lot of my success stems from studying that 14-minute audio, or at least pieces of it. And in that audio, they asked someone successful, they said, when did you know you were successful? He said, I knew I was successful when I was sleeping on the park bench because I knew where I was going. So, okay, that stood out to me. Then Bob, in one of his videos, he says, Earl has the best definition of success I've ever heard in my entire life. And you're talking about somebody that studied success for 60 years. So I was like, all right, let me hear the definition. And it's in that magic word audio. And Earl Nightingale says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And I thought I got it. I thought I understood it. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. But I started to study this definition, and I broke it down into 5 pieces. There's 5 pieces to this definition. Now, part 1 is progressive realization. So in order for you and I to be successful, we must make progress realizing something. Okay. Now, part 2 is worthy. I looked up the definition of worthy, just means something of value. So piece it together. In order for you and I to be successful, we must make progress realizing something of value. All right, cool. So part 3, I mean, man, I've been listening to this audio for 4 years. What the heck does this word ideal mean? And so I look up the definition of ideal. And here's the book definition. Only in the imagination, desirable or perfect, but not likely to become a reality. And so I stood there a little confused, probably for a few months, because it didn't make sense to me when I pieced it all together. I said, okay, in order for you and I to be successful, we must make progress realizing something of value to us that's not likely to become a reality. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What am I missing? I was like, I get it. Like I get it. My success is growing, but like this definition, I'm trying to study it. And so I'm very faith-based. So I take half of that definition and I say that's God's vision for you, which is only in the imagination, desirable or perfect. Well, if it's only in the imagination, that's a God-given faculty. That's a gift from God. That's nothing that could be given or taken away from you. And so with that, I'm like, okay, God's vision. So you got to have a vision, right? Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. So I was like, all right, we got to have a vision for what we desire, something that's almost perfect. The root word of ideal is idea. So you got to have this in every area of your life. What does your ideal weight look like? What does your ideal health look like? What does your ideal relationship look like? Your ideal income, your ideal business, your ideal, career. Like, what are all these different things? What does it look like in different areas of your life? So I pieced that together and it started to make a lot of sense, but I'm still missing 2 parts. Now, the fourth part 4, didn't come until about 2 years after Bob has passed away. Now, I have about $150,000 of everything of Bob Proctor, access to where I've studied his stuff, but I missed something. And he passed away, and 2 years later, a reel pops up on Instagram. I was like, all this studying, and you could get a lot from a reel when people invest a lot of money into the material. And I have no clue what the reel was about. But I remember him saying one thing, and my subconscious caught it. I rewinded that reel, and I listened to it over and over. He said, the secret of progress. Remember, part 1 is progress, right? You got to make progress realizing something. He said the secret to progress then lies in belief. So now I'm starting to get it a little bit more. I'm like, okay, so I plug in the word belief into part 1. It says, in order for you and I to be successful, we must believe every day that our ideal version, our ideal life, our ideal health, our ideal relationship is going to happen. We must believe every day with certainty that it's going to happen. Then there was the 5th piece that's missing. And that's the second part of the definition of ideal, right? Only in the imagination, desirable or perfect is the first part. The second part is, but not likely to become a reality. And the reason why success is not likely to become a reality, and I'm talking about success in every area of your life, not just monetary, is because people aren't willing to put in the work. They're not willing to put in the work of what it takes to develop new habits, right? That's creatures of habits. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things on earth is to break a habit and replace it with a new habit. But people aren't willing to put in the work to do that part in order to have their ideal life a lot closer and closer and closer and come to vision. So what we did, that's what ideal is. It's the process, the system. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you because what you just said brings you right back to the progressive realization, right? It brings you right back to daily progression towards that.
Yep.
Right. That 5th piece brings you right back, almost circularly back to your first part
Mm-hmm.
that you explained. You got to have this progression towards something of worth. And then, okay, you were going to say, sorry, I interrupted you because to me, that a light bulb went off. So it's like, yeah, it is. It starts with that belief and you have your progression towards this ideal. Well, it's not likely to happen unless you're actually doing the progression. You're actually working.
You said it, light bulb. That's what happened with me, It's just a light bulb. Like, So what Ideal is that process. People are like, well, how do you now create new habits? How do you develop? There's a quote, don't know who it's by, but it's stuck with me ever since. The quote is, God's greatest gift to us is more time or more talent and ability than we would ever hope to use in our lifetime. It continues by saying, our gift to God is to develop as much as that talent and ability that we can in our lifetime. And so the development of who you are as a person is all you have to do to grow in life. And so Ideal is the process, the system, the structure, the tools, right? The coaching, the programs, the material, everything we do is to help people progress 1% better every day, 1% better every day. That's it. Something as simple as just getting 1% better every day towards a clearly defined goal. Whatever it is, Ideal. Have that written out, and we have a tool and a process to get you there. So thank you for letting me share that, but I wanted to sum that up.
Boom, drop the mic. It's over. That's awesome. Michael, it's been a treat to speak with you. And I, for one, I'm a better person for the fact that I got to listen to it live. But I'm certain that everybody else that will listen to this from now on will all be, grateful that they took the time to listen to what you've had to say and learn from your experience. Really appreciate it. Everyone, as I said earlier, we will put some connection real estate, if you will, in the show notes to where you can find some of the things he's talked about. The Ideal app is on the App Store. I don't know that we need to put a link to that. Most of you know what to do there. But as always, we really appreciate you liking and subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review. And last of all, as we always say, remember that mastering your millions all starts in your mind and with your team. Make sure they are the best. Catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.